Summer is a great time to spend a little time at Greensboro's many parks and recreation facilities. And of course, this year it's going to look a little bit different, but there are still lots of ways to get out, to enjoy some activities, and really make the most of the summer. Nasha McRae is with us. Great to see you again.
You too. Glad to be here.
Okay, so we are in phase 2 now of safer at home is what the governor's office is calling it. And so some things have changed, some things are still the same. What has changed as far as parks and recreation and some of the outlets that we have for activity in Greensboro?
Great. I see you're at Country Park, by the way, one of our more popular destinations. So as you said, Greensboro Parks and Rec, we're still the same. We're still providing opportunities to recreate. We're just doing it a little differently. And so for phase 2 of the Safer at Home order, we have opened a couple of opportunities. So tennis, for example, is open. That was previously closed for the first phase of the stay-at-home order. Our pickleball courts are open. Outdoor restrooms are open. We've extended the hours of some of our parks, our gardens, and our lakes, and extended those for people to be able to enjoy. Our cemeteries have also expanded some of their hours as well. But those are essentially some of the opportunities that are opened or expanded for phase 2. We still have our trails and our greenways that are open. Our neighborhood parks, we've never changed the hours, so those continue to stay open from dawn to dusk, as well as our trails, which people have really been enjoying them during this whole COVID process. So that has been really good to see people getting out and using them and exercising and recreating. So those are just a couple of things that we have available right now. Our online programming, so the programming that you would typically see in person at this time of year, we shifted that a few months ago to virtual and online programming, and we continue to do that, and we expand that as well. Or have expanded that as well to include some additional virtual tours. We've been doing the Great Camp Out, so doing some camping things, a lot of interactive programs. We still have our Piedmont Discovery Park Locator app, so you can download that to be able to find different parks, gardens, trails, not only in Greensboro, but in Guilford County and in High Point, to be able to find great places to socially distance while you're out recreating. So we're still here. We're still offering things. It's just looking a little bit different. And, we're continuing to evaluate our facilities weekly as more guidelines and more recommendations come out from public health officials about what is safe and what you can do while you're socially distancing from others.
A lot of people have questions about the pools right now. And right now, the Greensboro City pools are not open, correct?
That is correct. And so normally our pools and our spray grounds would have opened Memorial Day weekend, this past weekend, but we have closed those until July. So those will be open the 1st of July. If we do get additional guidance where we can open them safer sooner and we can have the staffing capacity and the ability to make sure that people are socially distancing, we may look at that and adjust that schedule. But as of right now, we're looking at that first week of July to go ahead and open. Our spray grounds will stay closed through the duration of the summer, but you will be able to come and visit us at least 2 of our 4 pools, possibly a third, depending on the capacity that we can offer them this year.
And just expect it to look a little different than before. Perhaps the chairs will be spaced in a different way, or there'll be some guidelines about capacity that we haven't seen in the past.
Absolutely. So we'll be looking at the furniture modifications to ensure when you're on the pool deck that there's some spacing between you and others. There may be some capacity issues where we may restrict the amount of people that can come into the pool at a certain time. We'll be encouraging those that are coming to our pools that are not swimming to wear masks. We may also include putting in lane lines in the pools to make sure that we can enforce that social distancing while even in the pool. So there'll be a couple of different things that will look a little bit different, but the pool will still be there for people to enjoy.
There's a lot that goes into this, a lot to think about. We've never had to think about it in the past. What kind of communication has been going on between Greensboro Parks and Rec and Parks and Recreation departments across the state and even the country?
A lot. That honestly, that has really been one of the positives that have come out of this coronavirus epidemic and this pandemic, that we've increased the amount of conversation, we've increased the amount of collaboration. Here in the Triad, we have a very, very close working relationship with the Parks and Recreation agencies and some of our other agencies like the YMCA, where we've been talking almost weekly and in some cases daily, just to make sure that we're in sync with the guidelines that come out, making sure that our operations kind of align with one another. Because as you can imagine, with us being so close in proximity, what one jurisdiction determines and what they do, it's going to have an impact on another. And we're all industry, serving the same industry, serving the same population. So we want to make sure that we're in sync as much as possible. We have a really great relationship and presence with our state association, our state chapter of our Parks and Recreation Association. And so we've been on twice a week calls with all of the directors from different agencies in the state to talk through the changes in the guidelines, the phase reopening, kind of hear about what's happening in other communities so we can best be prepared with our reopening plans, and even to provide some advice and some guidance. And us being one of the larger agencies in the state have been able to provide a lot of support and guidance to some of the smaller agencies as well, based on our experiences here. We've also been in close communication with our national organization as well, and with the CDC. And we have really good support, from our state and our national agency with working with public health officials to provide guidance for those guidelines as they continue to evolve and develop, to make sure that people are thinking through the nuances of the way that we operate. Recognizing that, Parks and Rec agencies at the state level, they're different, at what happens at the local level in the community that we serve. So we've been really fortunate throughout this whole process to have lots of good communication, lots of dialogue. We're continuously reviewing recommendations that come out of some of the different organizations that we work with. And so with being such a larger entity, we're getting recommendations from swim associations, from youth sports, down to the maintenance, of how we maintain our facilities. And that has been, like I said, one of the things that has been really positive, where we've been able to learn a lot about what are some of the best practices, taking cues even from some of the larger communities that have been impacted more severely than what we're seeing here in the Triad, to learn, what they're experiencing so we can put some really good plans in place. That has been really the saving grace here. And I will also say, outside of the Parks and Rec world, we've had lots of good communication with some of our community services peers. For example, with our Greensboro Summer Online campaign, where we're collaborating with the libraries, with Creative Greensboro, with the museum, and some other community partners to provide, a really good variety of online virtual programming to our community within this pandemic. Kind of learning what they're doing in their facilities, because a lot of times there is some crossover or some overlap with who we serve. So I think, the amount of communication that we have had has really been positive. We've taken a lot of lessons from this, and things that we will carry forward even in our operation plans, because granted, even if the pandemic, it may shift, it may go away for a little while. We don't know what the future holds, but we definitely know the way that we do business has changed, and that may not be something that will go away. That's actually been a really good thing for us to pivot and look at how we serve the community.
Looking ahead, are you starting to make plans for the fall, especially youth sports, adult recreation, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we are. And I have to give kudos to our Parks and Rec team. We have some really, really creative professionals in our department that have tried to pivot and done their best to look forward and look ahead to what the fall could look like. Right now, we're not looking at really resuming anything until after August, but the way that we function, we try to plan those things, 3 to 6 months in advance. All of our planning for our programs is very cyclical. And so we're looking at what that can look like and talking with a lot of the different leagues, the tournament organizers and promoters that we typically work with, to make sure that we have some good plan in place. Sometimes it's a little difficult depending on the sport to see how that could be impacted or evolved in the fall, but we're absolutely having having those conversations. Our hope is that we can continue to start to offer some of those in-person programmings as the summer progresses and we get into the fall, but obviously it'll look a little different. You know, we won't necessarily be able to serve as many as we normally would. We'll put a lot of different social distancing practices, protocols in place, but we're hoping to be able to start to shift toward that later this summer.
And of course, Parks and Recreation is a large, diverse group of people working there. Your parents, your caregivers, your folks who have more than one job. How is everybody doing kind of as a whole?
I think everyone is maintaining the best that they can. You know, it is difficult to navigate through uncertainty. And I think for us in Greensboro Parks and Rec, we provide that certainty. You know, we provide that connector, as you mentioned, from serving so many people. And so we try to do our best to gauge what people are comfortable with. We are sending out some surveys to get some feedback of what either parents may be comfortable with in the future with the different types of programs and the way we provide them. We know that there's a few other organizations that we connect with in the community that are also doing the same, and we're getting that feedback as well, and we're using that to help determine how we will continue to serve. But I think for the most part, everyone, has been really understanding, been really mindful of the social distancing practices. With the phase 2 going into that phase, I think, with things reopening, it's definitely going to be a learning opportunity for people to modify their behavior. And here it can be a challenge because we're so individualistic. And it's a choice, right? People can choose to adhere to the recommendations or they can choose not to. But we just do our best to do the best that we can to provide the opportunities, put signage up to try to provide the education so that people know, we want them to continue to be safe in order to enjoy what we have. And so we'll continue to do that going forward.
Well, Greensboro is always a great place to play, and we appreciate everything you and your team are doing to really make it even still a lot of fun, even during these difficult and uncertain times. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that's our job. We love to do it. That's our passion. And we love just being here to serve the community the best that we can. So this is the best place to be if you want to live, work, and play. That's what I always think.
I'm right there with you. Great to see you.
You too. Thank you.